Hi, this is John from Pakk. I'm here with Erhan from the Tapas Lunch Company, and we're going to run through the sales order workflow mega tutorial. So this is a video version of the written document that we've got in the documentation section of our website. It's just if you prefer to follow along with a video, this is going to be better for you. So the reason we've written such a sort of exhaustive documentation for this particular workflow is that this is the core of your day-to-day business in an e-commerce business. It's what you're doing all day, every day, taking orders either via the website or via phone, or whichever way the orders are coming into your system, and you are following them through, committing the stock, dispatching them, taking payments for them. And yeah, that's basically what you're doing all day, every day. So that's why it's important to really understand these workflows in depth. Pakk makes it quite easy for these workflows to basically not be linear, so it doesn't have to go step by step in only one direction. So orders can be in lots of different states at once, and obviously that introduces a degree of complexity, but it also makes the system very powerful and able to reflect reality. So again, that's why we've done such a detailed tutorial, and hopefully we'll be able to make things a bit clearer in this video tutorial. So the main thing we're going to start with now is item types. Okay, and we've got a little matrix here in the written document, but I'm going to show you now. We're going to switch to Erhan's test account, and we're going to go through the different types, the different product types that you have available in Pakk, and how those impact on the workflow, because they do have a really important impact. So if we go to inventory, and we're going to particularly look at the list view item type, because that shows the type of item down here, down the right. Okay, so if I just sort it into a different order backwards. So stockable product is your standard product. That's what you think about when you think of a product. So it's a product that you buy and you want to track how much of it you've got in stock. Okay, so that's pretty much, in most businesses, that's going to be 90% of what you're selling. And in Pakk, we call that stockable product. And then other types of product, if we just switch this up, the second most important one is going to be non-stockable product. That's a product that you buy and you sell, but you don't necessarily need to keep a tight count on how many you've got in stock. Okay, so in other systems it would be called like a non-inventory product or something like that. To give you an example, let's say that you bulk buy screws from a screw supplier, and you buy boxes of 10 kilos or 20 kilos of screws, and you sell them in little bags or something like that, and you don't necessarily need to keep a unit count on how many you've got in stock because you're selling them bulk or something like that. There's lots of examples like that, especially in the food industry, especially in your industry, where you don't need to keep an exact, especially if you're selling by weight, for example. You know what I mean? So you don't need to keep an exact count on how many you've got. It's kind of useful to be able to do that. And also other types of product, like manufactured products. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If you're custom making something on demand, then you're not, although you are selling it, it's still sellable. It doesn't mean that it's not sellable. It's just that it's not stockable. You don't actually count how many you've got. And then you've got another load of product types here on the right. You can see digital items, service, other charge, and adjustment. And those are the kind of things that go on order lines that aren't what you think about when you think of a physical product. Yeah, so a digital item, like a code or something for a product. Services, other random charges, adjustments. Adjustments can be positive or negative, so they could be a line discount or a line extra charge. These are all very similar, these ones. We've made them different product types, so more for like ease of use internally. They don't actually do anything particularly different. Like a digital item behaves very similar to how a service and you can see that in the matrix here. If you just scroll down here, so a stockable product can be can be stocked, and it can be dispatched, right? A non-stockable cannot be stocked, so you don't count the stock, but it can still be dispatched. But these other ones, like a digital item, a service, you don't count them or dispatch them, so they're kind of more abstract, but still really useful to add and combine all these things on an order. Okay, but of course, the reason why we're talking about this now is because these product types are really important when it comes to seeing how a order moves through the workflow, the order workflow. So the way to understand sales order workflow is in terms of the order status. Okay, and the status has 4 components. the committed status, the invoice status, the dispatch status, and the paid status. Okay, those are the sort of 4 main tenets of order status. And we're going to look now at some orders. And so this is a test account with loads of just test orders, and we're just going to pick one. We looked at one a bit earlier, which was quite a good example. I think it was 78. Yeah, this is quite a good example. So first thing to note, top left corner, next to the order reference is where you see the status labels. Okay, so this is a really good example because you've got a status label for all 4 of those components of status that we just talked about: committed, invoiced, dispatched, and paid. So these statuses can move in different directions independently of each other. Mostly, that's not completely true, but generally, you don't, it doesn't have to be a step-by-step linear thing. Okay, so and we're going to talk about them one by one. But you can see this order. This order is completely committed, completely invoiced, completely dispatched, and completely paid. Okay. Generally, for each of these status components, there's 3 possibilities. There's not at all, so not at all committed, not at all invoiced. And when that's the case, we don't display anything there. So we don't actually write not committed. You just don't see any committed message. And then there's partially, and then there's fully. Okay, so we don't write the word fully, but you can see here committed means fully committed. Okay, so I think we'll start with committed because that's the most complex, right? Just to recap how the stock system works in Pakk, it's fully batch based, right? So you stock and you track stock through batches. Now, if your business is the type of business which isn't the case with our hand, but in other businesses they don't need to use batches. You don't really have to use the batch system. I mean, it will be working under the covers, but you don't actually have to pay any attention to it. But if you want it, it's there for you to track expiry dates and batch reference numbers, so you can use it if you want to track stock at a very granular level, or you can just pay attention to the aggregate stock positions if you're not interested in batches, but you've still got it there. And again, it doesn't have to be either or across your whole business. For some products you could use it, and other products you don't use it. For example, this is actually a really good example, because on this order, the pans on line 2, there's just one batch called all pans, and that's like, we don't really care about tracking batches for this product. We're just going to have them all together. And then for the other one, the olives, the first line, you can see that there is actually a meaningful batch reference there, and that's obviously being used. And we could click through to that if we wanted to and see, some details about that batch, but we're not going to do that now. So the basics of commitment in Pakk are that if you choose a batch, you've committed that stock. That's the kind of main thing to hold in your head, all right? If a batch is not chosen, obviously we're talking about stockable products here. We're talking about the main type of product. You choose a batch, you committed the stock. It's as simple as that, right? You don't choose a batch, you don't commit the stock. And that's because you can only commit stock from batches. You can't sort of commit stock from the general product pile, because there is no general product pile. You know what I mean? It's you commit from batches. So that's the easy way to think about it. If I was to edit this, actually I can't because it's dispatched. Let's find another example. This one's dispatched as well, so we could create a new one. So let's quickly create a new order, and we'll put me here as the customer, and we will add some. Let's try and add some useful. So these are we need to find an interesting product here that we can use. Okay, like a manchego cheese, that's a good one. So, but there's none available. That's actually perhaps not a bad idea. Let's do that. Let's just quickly fill in shipping. And payment method. Okay. So what you can see here is that there's what we ordered one quantity, and because no batch is chosen, it's saying pending commit.
Sure.
Okay, and then you see up in the status there's nothing, because it's not committed, it's not invoiced, it's not anything. So you don't see any, it hasn't progressed along the workflow at all.
Non-status,
okay? Exactly. So pending commit is because there's no batch been chosen. Now, the problem here that we've got is that there's actually none available of this product, right? Because we've chosen a product which doesn't have any available. So we'll go and find something that is available now. So let's go to batches, for example. Okay, so this is the batch view, and here we can see so PAL 0005 has some products available. Okay, so if we go back to where we were, and we're going to add that. Let's just quickly search it out. PAL 0005, I think it was. So we can search that and add it. And there are 83 available here. That's 83 aggregated across all lots. Okay, so at this point it's telling you the full stock availability. So let's just stick 5 on this order, okay, and save it. Okay, so logically we didn't choose a batch, so it's not committed. So now let's get into the stage where we want to commit this stock to the customer, because as you take an order, you should commit the stock as quick as possible.
Exactly.
Right. 2 ways to do it. You can either do it manually on the line, okay, and we'll do that first. So go here. I'll select a batch. There's 2 batches. It tells you how many are available from each batch. So there's 83 aggregate available, 10 from this batch, 73 from this batch, and those are the expiry dates. So let's pick this one because that's the first expiry date available, okay, and save. Right, what's happened here? So we chose a lot. So this lot is committed, but this product here, the first one we added, is still not committed. That's because we don't have the stock.
Yeah.
So now the status has changed to partially committed, which is
sense.
what you'd expect. Okay, so that's one way to do the commitment. Obviously, if you've got a big order with lots of order lines, you're not going to want to do that manually. You want the system to do it for you intelligently, and of course it will let you do that. So let's go edit it, remove that lot assignment, and go and save it again. And now you see we're back to where we were before. Nothing's committed, no commitment at all.
Status.
Right. So we're going to use the intelligent auto committer now. We're not going to go deep into how this works, but basically it prioritizes lots that either are expiring first, or if there's no expiry dates to compare, then lots that were sort of first in to the warehouse.
Stock rotation.
It's like first in, first out. So we click commit, and it does the auto commit for us. So again, we're just back to where we were now before, like when we did it manually. Obviously, if it's a big order, that's going to be really quick. If it can't commit the stock because there's no stock to commit, it just won't do it. It will commit everything it can, at any one point. One thing to take into account is that on the default setup with your Pakk web stores, this gets fired automatically when an order comes in from a website. So you don't have to go and manually do this for every single order. Okay, it's logical, good practice. As soon as an order comes in, you're going to want to auto commit the stock. So that's basically commitment. It's batch based. If you select a batch, it's committed. If you don't select a batch, then it's back ordered. Okay, so that's kind of our definition of back ordered. That's if it's not committed. So if we look at this product, this MAN 306, in fact, actually, let's focus on PAL 0005. Remove the commitment. Okay, and now we're back to where we were before. We've got 5, and it's pending commit. So there should be 5 of this product back ordered. If I go to the product record, and you can see here, this is where we see the aggregate stock for the product. So this is like the next level up from batch. This is aggregated across all batches. 5 are back ordered, and those correspond to the 5 that we just left sort of dangling on that previous order. So if we go back to that order, edit it. Actually, let's do the auto commit because that's quicker. Okay, so we've gone full cycle again. We're partially committed, but now if we go back to this, we'll see that's no longer back ordered. That stock, that's now committed. So now we've got 139 in total on hand, 78 available, 61 committed. So available, obviously, as you know, is just on hand, takeaway committed. Okay. Let's go back to this order which we're working with, and let's just get rid of that cheese that we don't have any stock of. Save it. You can clear commitments. Obviously, you just click the clear commitment button, then it will clear it. We can recommit, and we're good to go. So I think that does cover everything in commitments. I might have forgotten something. I might have to come back to something, but that's fine. So this is now fully committed. You see that before, when we were looking at the status, we were seeing partial. because now there's only one line on the order, and it's fully. So this order is now fully committed, which is great. But it's not invoiced, it's not paid, and it's not dispatched.
So it's the next cycle.
Yeah. So now we're on to the next thing. So we kind of covered commitment status here, and this essentially is like everything you need to know. That's what we just said about. We've said it around 100 times already. You select a batch, you committed the stock. Okay. Now, yes, this is good. There's something that's mentioned in here in the. So we talked about the automatic intelligent commitment. Non-stockable products. Non-stockable products can't be committed because you don't stock them. So I think we had an example of a sales order earlier. We were looking at one. Was it? Yes, these ones. So the weekend experience pack, I think this is all of these are good examples of non-stockables. Not applicable because you can't you can't commit them because they're non-stockable products. Again, the auto committer knows that, obviously. Yeah, the auto committer will take that into account, and it won't commit. It won't try to commit, obviously, because there's nothing it can do. So you can see here that the status logic gets a little bit more complicated because here you've got a combination of stockables, which is the first two, this one, and the last two are stockables, and then in the middle you've got 4 non-stockables. But the overall status is obviously committed. That's because everything that can be committed is committed. Right? So there's it wouldn't make any sense to call this a partially committed order, even though not all the lines are committed. But the lines that aren't committed is because they can't be committed. Does that make sense? Makes sense. Right. Cool. So that's commitment logic. The next thing that the tutorial covers is the invoice status. Now, this is actually really simple. Okay, for various reasons, there's no such thing as partial invoicing in Pakk. It's either invoiced or not invoiced, and it sort of comes down to the fact that the way we approach the workflow of a sales order is a little bit different from other systems. In that invoices, receipts, dispatches of stock, payments, they're all inside the umbrella of the sales order. So you come to this sales order, and everything you need to know about it is inside this view. So all of the dispatches will be on the dispatches tab. All of the payments will be on the payments tab, right? And the billing is the same thing, but we don't allow multiple invoices against the same sales order. So really all you need to do is choose an invoice at date. So the application of an invoiced at date makes a sales order an invoice.
Got it.
Okay, so it's like you give it an invoice date, it's invoiced. So that's what you can see here. This is an invoiced order. If I edit it, get rid of the invoice date, then now it's gone. Now it's not. There's no partial invoicing. You'll never see partially invoiced. Doesn't exist in this system. It's either invoiced or not invoiced.
It's very clean. When I look at it like that. Yeah.
Interestingly, what we see here is that this order is paid but not invoiced.
Okay, that's interesting.
Logically, when you think about this workflow, you normally think, okay, an order has to be invoiced before it can be paid.
Exactly.
But reality is not that smooth a lot of the way. Sometimes, for some reason or another, you get a customer payment before you've even invoiced.
Yeah, sure.
It does like a prepayment.
Sure.
Okay, and then if that happens, you're going to see some weird stuff happening on the outstanding. Normally, the outstanding balance is positive, which means that the customer owes you money.
Got it.
Right, because you create an order. This is like, especially in wholesale, you'll create an order, you'll invoice it, and then the customer owes you money.
Sure.
Okay. In this case, it's the other way around. You haven't invoiced this order, but they've already paid you. Sure. So it's like you owe them money, but of course you don't really, because when you edit it, the invoice date in billing, invoice date. Let's invoice it 1st of August 2020. Save. And now everything's back to how you understand that it should be, right? Because the outstanding balance is 0 because it's invoiced and it's paid. Okay. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about invoice status. Sure. The fact that it's just a date, it can't be partially invoiced, and it interacts with payments in ways that you depending on how much experience you've got with this, you might or might not expect. But it does allow to capture all the reality of the messy sort of lots of different, either wholesale or retail, any combination of those different workflows. Okay, so that's essentially invoice status. There are bulk controls for a lot of this stuff which we haven't really covered, but we don't really. It's kind of fairly obvious. So if I go to pending, I don't know if there are going to be any pending invoice here. But so this is the pending invoice. Obviously, the sales order list views are kind of ordered by workflow action.
Sure.
So we create these lists so that you have somewhere quick to go and say, right, what have I got that's pending invoice here?
Sure.
And then I can choose invoice action, and then I can say, right, I want to do these 3,
cool.
and you can submit the, to,
Perfect.
all it's going to do is set a date on them. So this is not the most useful action, but there are much more useful actions. So pending dispatch, I think that's the next one in the tutorial. Yeah, it is, right. We'll come on to this one now. So this one's a little bit more complex. So this was the order that we were working on, right? So this is a committed order, pending dispatch. Dispatches can be complicated. That means it's not just one dispatch, all the products. You can have multiple dispatches with multiple combinations of the products on them. Okay, so that will be here in the dispatch. You can manually create them. You wouldn't normally do this. This is quite labor intensive, but sometimes you need to make small tweaks to dispatches. You can do it here. So you'll add a new dispatch, and then dispatches have a date, they have a carrier, tracking code, and then you would add a new dispatch line, and then you would select what you've dispatched and everything. But actually, like I said, that's not particularly useful. It will be much better to use the auto dispatcher, which is a bit like the auto committer in that it applies some intelligence to the process. Dispatch. So let's say we dispatch with the courier DPD, a tracking code of test, and is that today's date? Yeah, 18th. So let's say we're doing this in the afternoon after we've just done our daily dispatch. Yeah, so we'll do that and we'll click confirm. So again, that was just this particular. We just did that for one order.
Sure.
Normally you do this bulk, and I'll show you that in a second. But for one order, you might want to do it, and we just did it here. So go to dispatches tab, and that's what it did for us. Basically, it created a single dispatch with all of the committed and dispatchable products. And now this is where we come back to this product type thing that we talked about at the beginning, right? Because remember we talked about these products here, which are not only are they non-stockables, but they're also non-dispatchables.
Sure.
So the dispatcher will take that into account.
Sure.
It's not going to try to dispatch a discount or a digital item or something like that. Okay. So in this case, it was a stockable and dispatchable item, and it was committed.
Yep.
That's the other thing.
Yep.
It's not going to. It has to be committed to be dispatched.
Yep.
So that's what it's done here. It's dispatched, and it's done all the logic for us. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you. So if I go to sales orders pending dispatch, we do have some pending dispatch, right? And you can see in here the status. So some of these are not dispatched at all. Some of them are partially dispatched.
Yep.
You can use the auto dispatcher on partially dispatched ones. You're not going to delete any ones that are previously created. It will take into account. It will consider that you're dispatching the remainder. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
You can use the auto dispatcher multiple times on one order over and over again. Let's say the easiest workflow is use it once, and then let's say there's one or two products you didn't send, just delete them from the dispatch, and then use it again when you do dispatch them.
Fine.
And this would be where you did your bulk, your daily. Let's say you've got 100 orders to go out. 95% of the time, the simple case will be the one that you need to replicate, which is I sent all of the the items from this order, and that's going to be click here, dispatch, this one, tap in my codes, bam, 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 courier, DPD, and submit. And that's going to create all the dispatches across all of those orders for us. And then so let's go out of this and go back to the ones where we were, sales orders. So this one, we created a single dispatch. We dispatched all of the products, and of course that puts it into status fully dispatched.
Yep. Okay.
So this order is fully committed. Note that it's not invoiced because we never invoiced it. We could invoice it. Let's do that. So again, depending on how your business works, you can fit this into your workflow in different ways.
It's not step by step, and it's not
right. It doesn't have to be.
It's the cycle, but it can actually go in multiple.
It can overlap in multiple directions.
That's quite an interesting way to see that.
Like the default Pakk websites, web store setup is that they would flow in an invoice state.
Of course.
Because that makes sense. Because most web store orders are going to be invoiced. Absolutely. They're going to be paid. Sorry. So exactly. It makes sense for them to come through invoiced. Yeah. Because what we don't have like a separate type of sales order for a cash sale. Some systems do that. They have like an invoice sale and a cash sale.
Sure. We
prefer to just simplify it, and it just makes it easier to reason about. So if we what were we going to show? We were going to invoice.
Yeah.
So we can just click here to invoice it, and we'll invoice it today's date, confirm, and now it's invoiced, and that shows again. But just to repeat, all that did was set the date there. You can do that from here. Sales orders pending invoice. You can bulk invoice here.
Perfect.
Oh, we talked about that already.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to that sales order. So now we've got a committed, invoiced, dispatched order. So like 3 out of 4 ready to roll.
The next thing is the paid.
Is the payment, right? So we basically just covered invoiced status here. And again, the simple rule to remember, you select a date, you made it invoiced.
Sure.
Okay, you can do it bulk like it talks about here. We've talked about the dispatch logic, automatic dispatching, and the final thing is the payments. So like everything in the Pakk admin panel, you can create automatic manual payments here. So edit, add a new payment. So it's 65.45. So let's say that, I don't know, the customer had sent you a bank transfer or something old-fashioned like that. You would you'd put in here SEPA transfer. Let's say it came in yesterday, and it came in for I don't know. Let's say the customer made a mistake and he sent you £65 flat, straight. So what's happened now? The total of the order is 65.45, and the customer made a mistake and they sent you a bank transfer for £65. So the order's in one of these annoying states now. But it happens in real life, So it's partially paid. You can see that in the top left corner. So that represents reality. You've got a single payment logged and a 45 cents outstanding balance. Note that one thing is the order balance.
Yep.
And one thing is the customer balance, right? So in this case, this just applies to this order. If I go to the actual customer, which is me, perhaps, you see I've actually got an outstanding of 843 from all the different test transactions that we've put through. So this is useful to see what's owing from this particular order.
Really clear,
exactly. And then as well as doing that, there's this payment button here as well. This would, again, it's very similar to what I just did manually. It just makes it a little bit easier, especially, let's say he calls up and pays the last 45 cents by credit card. Credit card, 45 cents, it's pre-filled it with the amount.
Pre-filled with the amount,
So I just click confirm, and now I've got another, I've got a credit card, but obviously all the usual metadata that you get from a credit card payment is not in there because this is a manual one. And now it's fully paid, right? The order's fully paid, no outstanding balance. Normally you would do this, a lot, especially if they're web store orders, then a lot of them are going to come through paid already with all the metadata that comes from Stripe or PayPal or depending on how you've taken the payment, right? All that will be filled out. Otherwise, if you wanted to do it bulk by hand, if you had a lot of wholesale customers and you needed to register bulk bank payments, for example, you could go to sales orders pending payment. Let's select payment for bulk processing. And then we're just going to do all the bank transfers, for example. So we'll click SEPA transfer. Everything gets pre-filled with the remaining balance, which is logically the most common workflow here. So let's say we just wanted to do this one, this one, this one, and this one, 4 of them, and a SEPA transfer, and we would click submit, and it would pay them, and then they'd all be payment completed. And that that's the end of the workflow.
That's really clear.
Yeah,
really clear. Thank you very much.
Cool. All right. If you're watching this and you need any more information, you're probably going to find it in the written document, the written tutorial. If not, just get in contact with us and we'll help you out.
Definitely check out. Really helps.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.